I am Zheng Chenggong or Koxinga, a name that echoes through history as a symbol of defiance, resistance, and loyalty to a lost dynasty. Born in 1624, I was the son of Zhang Zhilong, a respected pirate lord and military commander who initially served the Ming dynasty, and Lady Chen, a woman of noble birth. My father's role in the Ming dynasty was significant, as he held a powerful position in the court before the Qing conquest. Yet, it was his eventual surrender to the Qing that forever marked my path, a path I vowed would never bend before the Qing rulers. I grew up in a turbulent time. China was divided, torn apart by civil war and the unstoppable advance of the Qing forces from the north. The once mighty Ming dynasty, under pressure from the Manchu forces, was crumbling, and many loyalists, like my father, were faced with a harsh choice: accept the Qing rule or face annihilation. My father's decision to ally with the Qing Empire was one I could not accept. His betrayal of the Ming was something I could never forgive, and it drove me to reject his decisions and chart my own course. From an early age, I was taught the values of Confucianism, a set of principles that became my guiding force in life. Despite the fall of the Ming dynasty, I clung to their traditions, convinced that China could not thrive under foreign rule. My training was not solely intellectual. I was well-versed in martial skills, naval tactics, and governance. These skills would serve me well in my pursuit of a singular goal: to restore the Ming and rid China of the Qing invaders. After the death of the Ming Emperor in 1644, I made a bold decision. I defied my father's allegiance to the Qing and chose instead to fight for the return of the Ming dynasty. My first actions took me along the coast, where I gathered forces from like-minded individuals, those who were loyal to the Ming and disillusioned by Qing rule. The next few years saw me establish myself as a military leader, gradually building my reputation through small naval engagements and raids against Qing forces. But my greatest achievement came in 1662, when I set my sights on the island of Taiwan, which at the time was under the control of the Dutch East India Company. The Dutch had been trading in Taiwan since the early 1600s, and by 1661, they had built a stronghold at Fort Zeelandia. Their occupation was seen by many in China as yet another foreign intrusion on Chinese territory, and I knew that the only way to truly defy Qing dominance was to establish a free Chinese enclave. I launched my campaign to capture Taiwan with a fleet of over 200 ships and more than 25,000 soldiers. The Dutch were formidable, with a well-fortified position and superior weaponry, but I had a distinct advantage: they underestimated my resolve. The siege of Fort Zeelandia lasted for several months, with me employing military tactics that included blockades, guerrilla-style attacks, and psychological warfare. The Dutch were forced to rely on reinforcements from Batavia, modern-day Jakarta, but they failed to break the siege. The turning point came in February 1662 when Admiral Jacob W. Verburg, the Dutch commander, realizing that he could not hold out much longer, surrendered the fort to me. With this victory, I claimed Taiwan for the Ming dynasty and established the Kingdom of Tungning. This was a significant achievement, for Taiwan became the last bastion of Ming loyalty and the center of my resistance against the Qing. Upon assuming control of Taiwan, I implemented reforms to stabilize the economy and governance. I encouraged Han Chinese settlers to move to Taiwan and began cultivating the land. I revitalized trade, bolstered the island's defenses, and formed alliances with neighboring kingdoms, such as Japan. Taiwan became a vibrant center of commerce and culture, a symbol of Chinese resistance. However, my reign was not without its challenges. The Qing Emperor's forces, fearing the rise of this new stronghold of Ming loyalists, launched several expeditions to recapture the island. Despite several Qing attempts to invade, I remained resolute, continuously fortifying Taiwan and leading its defenses. But in the midst of my successes, I faced personal battles as well. I struggled with maintaining control over my generals and the various factions that coexisted in my newly established kingdom. While I built a strong military, political unity proved to be elusive. My son, Zheng Jing, whom I had hoped would carry on my legacy, was inexperienced and failed to live up to my expectations. I often found myself increasingly frustrated with his leadership, which affected the cohesion of my forces. By 1662, my health began to deteriorate rapidly. I was only in my late 30s, but the pressures of constant warfare, political unrest, and the physical toll of leadership had taken their toll. Despite my efforts to secure the future of Taiwan and the resistance movement, I succumbed to illness and died unexpectedly in the same year. After my death, Taiwan fell into disarray. While I had built a stronghold of Ming resistance, my death left a power vacuum that my son, Zheng Jing, struggled to fill. The Qing soon took advantage of the weakened state of the kingdom, launching a final, successful invasion of Taiwan in 1683, more than 2 decades after my death. Yet, despite Taiwan's eventual fall to the Qing, my legacy lived on. I am remembered as a hero of Chinese nationalism, a man who fought against foreign invaders to preserve the cultural and political integrity of the Han Chinese people. I became a symbol of defiance, not only against the Qing but also against any force that sought to dominate China. In Taiwan, I am celebrated as a national hero, and my efforts are remembered as a vital chapter in the story of Chinese resistance. What I fought for, the freedom of my people and the restoration of the Ming dynasty, did not succeed in my lifetime. However, my life and legacy became a beacon of hope for those who, like me, refused to bow to foreign oppression. Taiwan, while eventually falling to the Qing, would go on to become the last place where Ming loyalists could stand and resist the Qing. My name, Koxinga, endures not as a symbol of conquest, but as a symbol of resilience and independence. Though the forces of empire, like the Qing, ultimately overcame my efforts, they were not able to erase my legacy. The flame of resistance I lit would continue to inspire generations of Chinese to fight for their dignity, their sovereignty, and their right to live free. I may have been a son of a pirate, a warrior, and a rebellious prince, but above all, I was a man who refused to surrender to foreign tyranny. My actions were not simply those of a ruler, they were the actions of a man who believed in something larger than himself. I believed in a China free from foreign domination, a belief that would continue to resonate throughout history.